What's poppin'? We got the house history class, man. Happy Corona break to y'all.
You know what it is. Go ahead, like and subscribe to the channel. This is where you finna learn about the history. You feel me? Tune in.
Straight like that.
As we jump into our new unit, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about culture. Culture is going to be the last unit that we talk about. And it's one of my most favorite ones, probably because you guys just understand the most about culture and kind of what it is and just the things that come with it. We talk about it kind of all year, so it's kind of like a big wrap up as you get a lot of details. So again, I'm just going to go straight to the PowerPoint. So the first thing with culture, okay, so it says culture is a combination of three things, which is your customary beliefs and values, your material artifacts, and your social forms for political institutions. And this chapter is going to deal with material artifacts. So the best way I think I can describe culture is what you say, it's how you talk, it's what you do, it's the way you dress, it's the food you eat, it's the language. Culture is you. Cultures change. The examples I usually use is like certain cities have different cultures to them, whether it's San Francisco, LA, New York, or even Atlanta. The cultures that are known for those individual cities is kind of, what is the city about? What does it have to offer? What are the I guess, intricate little details of that city? And that's your culture. And everyone's culture is a little different. Sometimes your culture is interwoven with other people that you may know, but for the most part, everybody's culture is pretty different, which is very interesting. So it says geographers study how culture influences behavior. So the difference between habitat and custom. So a habitat, it says, is a repetitive act performed by an individual, and a custom is a repetitive act performed by a group. So I guess talking about habits, the example I guess I would use is whether you all believe it or not, or some of you believe you're trendsetters or anything like that. How high school works is you guys wear what college people wear. And what you all do that because you think it's cool, because you think that's what college kids are usually wearing for the most part is what is in style as far as fashion goes. So the example I always like to use is like the #1 dress code breaker at Hill Grove High School, and that is the big T-shirt and Nike running shorts pandemic that is currently been in full swing since probably circa 2012. And the reason I say that is, #1, it's a dress code violation, but where that all started, believe it or not, started when I was in high school, which some of you may be like, that was a long time ago. It wasn't that long ago. But people start wearing like oversized T-shirts, and I'm more harping on girls. I'll hit on some of the guys' trends later, but what happened is, at some point, somebody saw somebody wearing an oversized T-shirt, and then obviously the Nike running shorts became a big thing, so it became like very like popular. I'll give you an example. For guys, you all may remember this trend that came out of like Sperry shoes, and the trend was first you were not allowed to wear socks with them because they were like almost like a loafer, and then people started wearing like Nike socks with them. That's a trend. Right now in sports, trends for guys, when you're talking about like basketball and stuff, the shorts are getting shorter, right? So it's kind of going back to the old school trend. So that is a habit, meaning like one person does that thing, and then when it becomes a custom, that's when a group of people does it. So a habit is that one person wearing the socks and Sperry's, and then the habit is a whole group of people doing that. Okay, that's pretty good. And then I'm going to talk to you about two types of culture. So the first one, I'm going to skip down to slide 5. That is going to be folk culture. And when I hear folk culture on the PowerPoint, it's going to give you a whole bunch of little bullets that you can look at. This is the best way to describe folk culture. When you're talking about folk culture, you need to think of like tribal areas. You need to think about like old school, indigenous. You need to think about very, very close-knit communities, the smaller communities. And the big thing with folk culture is it does not change over time, right? The reason that they practice these types of cultures, customs, traditions, beliefs is because their ancestors did it, and their ancestors did it before them, and their ancestors did it before them. It's like the way that things are done around there. Folk culture is very, very old school. It's very tribal in society. So if I were to ask you, well, more developed, less developed, where are you going to see this at? You're going to see this in less developed countries. Why? Because they're still more tribal in, I guess, societal terms. You're not going to see it in more developed countries because they're not more tribal. Now, will you see it in some areas? Sure, but overall, you're not going to see it as much as you would in the lower developed communities. If you go on the next slide, it's going to show you where these are in effect today. Then it's going to talk about the architecture. So folk architecture, the main thing is, again, they're tribal. So these are not your major cities. These are not anything like that. They're basically using whatever materials that they can that is located around them. So what that means is, like, they're going to use mud, they're going to use sand, they're going to use straw. The infrastructure of their house is not going to be very sturdy necessarily, but they're using the materials that are around them in the landscape, right? When it talks about food, you're obviously going to have different types of these. Are going to be your people that are going to be more likely to do your subsistence agriculture. All right, and then we're going to skip on down to popular culture. So pop culture is changing. Trends change, people change, the way people dress change. If you look, I like to do this, go online and look at like 2005 prom outfits, prom dresses and suits. And I guarantee you, when you look at the men's suits are going to be very, very, very baggy. Why? I don't know. I can't really tell you. That was a style at that point. People wore baggy clothes. And then now, like, if you're looking at like prom suits, like, you're going to have very, very tight form-fitting suits, going back to more of what they were like in the 20s almost. And it's going to be very, very tight. A lot like this new style for guys is to have your ankle showing on your pant leg. Obviously just to highlight your shoe as well. But the trend's going to change. That's popular culture. So popular culture is always changing. This is due to technology, right? The fact that you can get on social media such as Instagram, you can see what these people of influence, I guess is what you all try to call yourselves, what they're wearing, how they look, the things that they're doing, and then the younger population is going to be the ones that are going to simulate that. So again, technology is the main driving force. It says it's got wide distribution, so similar from place to place, more likely differences from time to time. So the thing I'm going to talk to you about and is big here is going to be like McDonald's. So I've traveled a lot, or I guess more than some people, but the number one thing that I can tell you is there's been a McDonald's everywhere I've went. And that includes Iceland, that includes Poland, that includes Germany, that includes France, like wherever. I've been there and they've been a McDonald's. Why? Because it's a globalized company. And that's important because McDonald's is like American culture and American food. So they span globally because people want to have some of that American ideals and stuff like that. And then if you flip to the next, it's going to show you little different pictures of, I guess for the people that are not watching, little different pictures of like styles. So that was terrible, but there's little different pictures of styles that people were doing, like with your clothes, and they got Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and all this other stuff on there, and just the trends and how people change their outfits and their styles over the years. Again, you know, with popular culture, you're gonna have more trendy things, so it doesn't necessarily, this is where your major cities are gonna come. This is where you want it, you build it, meaning like it talks about like swimming pools in malls and the idea that you can surf in Tempe, Arizona. So like it says, our place is still tied to the landscape. The answer is no. Best example for this, for you all, the place that's like the most disgusting, I'm pretty much convinced almost in the world, that's a park, Whitewater. The chlorine-filled pools that are pretty much just nasty. I don't know if you all grew up going to Whitewater like I did, but now that I know what's there and have friends that have worked there, I will not be returning. But the idea is, if you've been to Whitewater, they have the big wave pool. Well, the idea is that you're getting to experience waves in the middle of Marietta, Georgia. Well, is that like ideal? No. Why? Because Marietta, Georgia is not part of the ocean, so you should not be experiencing waves. But what happened is we have the technology, we have the sources available to in fact do that. So the problem is, though, as you gain more pop culture, you're going to lose more folk culture. Why? Because popular culture is going to be the things that are going to be spreading out, and inherently it's going to take over some of these folk culture places. And then, okay, so we're going to talk about assimilation versus acculturation. So the best thing that you're going to have to start out with is the fact of colonialism and imperialism and everything like that. What is colonialism? Colonialism, you need to think of like Great Britain taking over the colonies in America. The idea is the mother country or the larger country, so let's say Great Britain, for example, they want to expand so that they can use the resources located on other territories. So the other territories, that one of them that they expanded to was the United States, or what would become the United States, and they developed the colonies. Okay, so what's important with that is they're doing it for different motives. The idea is they want to make money off the colonies. They want to use the colonies as a way that they can export their products. They want to use the resources such as the lumber and all of that. All these good things that come from the colonies, they're there. That's their motive. Their also motive talks about the 3 Gs, guns, glory, God, meaning you are there. They're trying to change the way that people practice their religion. So most of the time they're going to, I would say, cover it up with these missionary trips and such of trying to, convert these individuals to Christian. But what they're really looking for is their gold and their glory. So what's the lasting effects? How's that? Why am I talking about, Coach? Why are you talking about this? Because whether you like it or not, the people who colonize you they're gonna have some impact on you. Even us today, right? The reason we speak English is because guess what? The English colonized us. The reason that we have some traditions is because guess what? The English colonized us. So you're talking about certain things of the way we do things, the sports that we play. All of that plays into who raised us being the United States and the effect that those had on you. I already talked about globalization. So I'm going to get into acculturation and assimilation. So acculturation. So it says the adoption of a new culture while maintaining elements of the old. Best example. A lot of you have parents who are not from the United States. Okay, so at your house, like let's say at your house your parents speak Spanish. Let's say they're fluent in Spanish. So at your house, you may only speak Spanish. But guess what? You still, when you come to school, you understand English. You understand the traditions that we have as Americans. But when you go home, you may eat certain foods that are, true to your culture or you're true to your parents' culture. But yet you have the best of both worlds. You understand your old culture and you can practice that. But yet again, you understand kind of what's going on in the United States and how the different parts of being an American and how that plays into your everyday life. So that's acculturation. On the flip side is going to be assimilation. So assimilation is a process where you're trying to completely strip, they're trying to get you to strip your old culture and just 100% transform into where you're at. So the example I always use, if I pick up and I move to France, right? Let's say Coach Howes moves to France. When I get there, I give up every single part of American lifestyle, okay? I give up the fast pace, I give up the capitalist, I quit eating hot dogs, I quit celebrating 4th of July, and I turn into a Frenchman. I shrink like 6 inches. They smoke cigarettes a lot. Coach Howes started smoking, all this other stuff. And I practice their culture. I practice their, maybe I take on the major religion that is going on in France, and I completely just forget about my American customs, cultures, values, all that. That is assimilation. I'm completely immersed, and I do not practice my American cultures anymore. That's assimilation. Okay, so again, in the next slide, it's going to have, the differences between the two laid out for you all very well. So it says, why is popular culture widely distributed? Remember, technology is the key to that. Then it's going to talk to you about the globalization of such. Remember, as technology spreads, as humans spread, everything else is going to spread with it. So that is basically the wrap up of the culture unit. Make sure you're doing everything you need to be doing. Make sure you're doing your final exam and your projects and all that other good stuff. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me.
Thanks for watching History with Howes.
Don't forget to
like,
comment,
and subscribe.